Hello, today I'm screen printing a t-shirt. So I'm going to tape my t-shirt design to the back of my silkscreen, and then with the mesh side down right on top of that design, I'm going to trace my image onto the silkscreen. I'm using a washable marker to trace my image. This way I can wash out my screen and get rid of that image and reuse it again in the future for a different design. If I don't use a washable marker, I might have that image permanently traced onto the screen, which will make it a little bit more confusing when I try to reuse it in the future. So I'm working with that washable marker, tracing my image onto the screen. When I'm finished tracing my image, I'll remove the paper design and flip my screen over so that now the mesh side is facing up. And you can see that my image is backwards. I will use the screen filler to fill in all the parts of my design where I don't want the ink to go through. So everywhere that's black in my design, what I eventually want to be printed in black onto my shirt, I'm going to make sure that that is still visible and has no screen filler on that part of the screen. And everywhere else, I'm going to use the screen filler to cover it up, and that will block the ink from getting through those parts of the screen. So essentially I'm using the screen filler to paint out the negative space. It'll look sort of like the reverse of what the final image will look like. I'm just going to go pretty carefully and fill in all those little details with that screen filler. I want to paint the screen filler in as thin of a layer as I possibly can. I don't want any of the screen filler to dry in clumps or drip through onto the other side of the screen. One thing that I find helpful is to hold up my screen to a strong light and look through it. And if you see in any areas where you painted that screen filler that any light is shining through, and you can see any little dots in the mesh, you might want to go over that area with another layer of screen filler so that it's solid, because paint will be able to get through even those tiny holes in the mesh. So in order to make your print turn out nice and clean, you want to make sure that you have a nice layer without any gaps in it on your screen filler. When I finish my painting, I'm going to take my screen filler almost to the edge of that wooden frame, but if there's a little gap there, I'll use some masking tape to cover that up so the screen filler doesn't have to go all the way to the wood. But make sure you get a solid layer everywhere that you want to block the ink from going through the screen. Alright, now that my screen filler has completely dried, I will use some masking tape to fill in that gap between the image and the wooden frame. And I'll flip my silkscreen over and place it onto my t-shirt. I put a wooden board inside of my t-shirt just to give it a little more sturdiness when I'm making a print on it. And I want to make sure that my mesh side is down flush against the shirt and my image is going the correct way. So I will apply a little of my my fabric ink, my screen printing fabric ink, right above the image in a nice strip, and I want to make sure that this strip of paint is the complete width of my image. Although you don't need a lot of paint, you want to make sure that it goes as wide as the image, because I'm going to use my squeegee to swipe the paint through the screen all the way across my image. And I have my assistant holding my screen in place. So here I have a successful screen print, and I will immediately when I'm done wash off my silkscreen so that the paint does not dry on it.